Hey, welcome to Worlds Apart. We're back here with the Dark World Party, Crouna, Tico, Theranon, and thank God they're out of prison.
We did it!
Yay!
You sure that's a good thing? Maybe you should have kept this contained.
Yeah, I know. Now you're going to unleash hell upon this world.
This world that is not already hell.
Double hell. Before we get started, I want to give a quick thank you to some people who've helped us out with this episode. First of all, take a look at those cool-ass dice trays that Wormwood gave us. I'm going to talk about them more during the mid-roll, during the middle of the episode. But dang, they look cool. And just thanks so much, Wormwood, for letting us have these. If you get a closer look at them, they've got our logo on the leather. It's really nice.
It's really great. Let's see if they give us actually good rolls.
Yeah.
That's an 8. It's a 9.
Maybe you took your pens and stuff.
Yeah, why
Well-
are pens in there?
We'll edit this so that Cap will do 20 rolls and finally roll a 20.
16.
Okay. And also a big thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. Y'all are the real heroes. Okay, let's dive right into it. Previously on Worlds Apart, Crouna, Tico, and Theranon escaped from the from the Bloodrock Delve labor camp and fled east to Magpie's hometown of Ash Hill. They took the unconscious Warden Valorith with them. She woke up during the ride and she has not really had a change of heart towards you guys. She's not really pleased. And Magpie basically swore to bring her to justice as soon as y'all reached her hometown. Basically swore to throw her back in jail, get some poetic justice. Where you are now, you have just exited the petrified boughs of the dead forest, and you can see a town before you. Lights are twinkling in the windows of its buildings, and there is a hill with 3 leafless ash trees standing behind it, almost like a protector or a watcher looming behind. Magpie smiles as your cart rolls over the purplish grass with the cart tracks turning the little blades to dust as it passes over. She turns to Tico and smiles and scratches the fuzz on her shaved head and says, "We did it. We're home."
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice place.
Is it?
Is it? Yeah, can I ask, how big is the city compared to Omaville, for example?
Okay, so it is like a flea on the back of a dog compared to Omaville. Okay. This is a tiny little village. You can see the town square at this distance already, and it has maybe 5 buildings in it. And on the outskirts of the town, beyond the wooden palisade walls, are maybe 20 cottages.
Okay.
So a really tiny little burg.
Okay.
How does Tico feel about this? Have you ever lived in a tiny town?
Oh, no.
No, you've been in the big city all the time.
Yeah, no, I think he's looking for more. Like, where's the rest of it? Well, and so Magpie did she actually say that she wanted to take Valorith to jail?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where's the jail?
Magpie looks over onto the horizon, looks over at the town, and turns back to you and says, "It's been a little while since I've been back home, but when I was last there, we used the armory as a prison."
An armory?
Yeah, we've got a smith, and there's a town militia, so we keep all their spears and stuff in there in case anyone ever comes to attack.
Oh.
I get the feeling that if you put her in there, she will not stay put for long.
Yeah, she's wicked magic, isn't she?
Well, as long as she doesn't have her holy symbol, we'll be fine.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
You've still got that Theranon, right?
Yeah, I've got it. It's right through my pocket. This one.
Yeah, you pull it out. It's a little 4-inch wide hoop of brass that has one serpentine dragon eating the tail of another.
So is it like a bracelet?
No, it was like it was kind of soldered to her breastplate.
Oh, right.
And you just like, yeah.
It's a door knocker for her armor.
I mean, yeah, kind of.
Knock, knock, here's the magic.
Yeah. And Valorith glowers at you from the back of the cart as you pull it out.
I shove it back into one of my pockets.
She is still manacled. These big iron bracelets with a big old chain between them. She's just sitting like this. She isn't gagged or anything like she was earlier, but she's just staying quiet.
Where are your folks? Where's your family?
By this point, the cart has moved towards about 50 feet of the entrance to town. You can see the palisade looming in front, and you can see some skulls planted on the wooden spikes of the palisade. They are humanoid. I would say that none of you really have a clear idea whether they're human or just a human-shaped monster.
Yeah.
Oh, you...
All I do is look at skulls.
That's fair.
Shopping for
Make a
skulls,
nature check with advantage because this is skull-related.
My nature. Okay.
Oh, you should do a goth roll.
20 natural.
13?
13?
Yeah.
These are not human skulls, but they have most of the features of a humanoid skull. You know, they've got 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. Their teeth are kind of what give it away. They have these big cat-like teeth, all sharp and small.
Oh,
So they might
goblin
be
skulls?
catfolk?
They do look goblinoid, yeah.
Oh, goblin. Forget about goblins.
I know Tico asked Magpie a question, and she says, "I know where my house is. I feel like we should go through the main gate of town. Make sure they know that we're not, attackers."
Yeah, that seems safe because skulls, I assume those were attackers.
Yeah, these skulls still have steel helmets on them. And they have a very strange design. They're open-faced. They have kind of a brim right here that goes back and flares out at the shoulder. And there is like a spiked mohawk of steel prongs that goes from the forehead down to the nape of the neck.
Stylish.
It looks like there was once some leather wrapped around it, but it is totally worn away. Your cart rolls through the entrance to the town, goes past those grisly palisade decorations, and you find yourself in a very simple town square. There's a well and a little dirt road that wraps around it, and there are 4 main buildings here, and they all 3 of them are made of wood, simple, rustic construction, and they all have signs hanging above their doors, but they're all in this strange script that you just can't read. The 4th building is actually quite large. It's made of stone, and it looks newer than the rest of the buildings. Magpie is actually looking at it with a look of confusion in her eyes, like she doesn't recognize it. And it looks to you, Saranon, like it might be a temple of some sort. It has big, tall windows. They aren't stained glass. It's not that fancy, but they're tall, and it looks like a kind of a squat stone structure with big oaken doors right in front.
Does it have a symbol on it anywhere?
Make a perception check.
9.
You look it over, but before you have a chance to look at it very closely, you hear a voice on the other side of you, away from the temple on the east, say, "Halt!" And 2 people who look like they're just villagers. They aren't wearing armor or anything, but they both have long spears tipped with a steel head. They both show up and they level their weapons at you and say, "I don't recognize your faces. Who are you?"
Yeah, Magpie, go.
Magpie.
Yeah.
We're with her.
Magpie pops out of the hooded cart, and she says, she looks them over, and an expression of dawning recognition passes over her face, and she says, "Lasco, it's good to see you." And she walks towards them with arms not like outstretched, but open. They lower their spears and they say, "Oh my God, I thought you were dead. You've brought friends with you. How did you get back here?" And Magpie walks over towards him and says, Let's not worry about it now. I'm just happy to see you." And she walks over to them and she gives them each a hug in turn. And the villager that she called Lasco says, "Okay, you and your friends stay right here. I'm going to go get the burgomaster." And he runs down a dirt road to the east towards another large wooden house that looks kind of like a town hall, and opens the door and disappears inside.
Magpie, did he say burgermaster?
He said burgomaster because this is a burg.
Burgomaster.
Yeah, he's the mayor. If it's the same mayor as I knew, he's a guy named Hallis. He's this kind of middle-aged dwarf.
Hallis the burger man. Is he gonna feed us?
Starving.
I hope that you will. Our last priest disappeared right before I was taken, but I'm sure you'll be able to find some food in here. I imagine they got a new one.
Disappeared, huh?
Yeah.
What were they the priest of?
Yeah.
We had a priest of Kieva here when I was around. He disappeared under pretty mysterious circumstances, actually. I don't quite know what the reason behind it was. I don't know, I feel like I was too young to really get it.
He didn't show up at Blood Rock Delve or anything?
Never saw him again. He just disappeared one night. And anyway, Magpie looks back towards the town hall that Lasco disappeared into. And all of a sudden, a group of people has begun to gather in the town square. They've heard the voices. You can see a few folks. One looks like I'll just describe him. The first person you see is an elf, actually, walking into town from a small hut just beyond its outskirts. And they are dressed in this long blue robe with golden designs all around it. And they have this very shortly cropped white hair. And they look at you from quite a distance away, probably about 30 or 40 feet, kind of lingering at the edge of town. Another person that arrives is a halfling woman who pops out of one of the buildings around the square. She's got this beige work apron on and a little bow in her hair. And she looks at you quizzically, and her gaze lingers on Magpie as if she's trying to figure something out. And a man in a gnome male in a great heavy suit of armor emerges from another building around the square. He's got a blacksmith's hammer in one hand, and he's got a lot of sweat on his brow, very square jaw, especially for a gnome, strong build. And he stomps right over to a Saranon and looks at you and says, "What are you?"
Yikes. Yikes. Yikes, dude.
I am a priest of Nerugov.
Huh. I already got one. And he turns around and goes back into his shop.
You do? Wait.
And all you hear is boom as the door slams behind him.
I mean, if you want to see the priest, maybe just go into the temple, yeah.
But we should back by the
And then you see coming from the road that Lasco ran down, there's the villager with the spear, Lasco. There is a human woman with a big fur ruff around her neck, and a stout dwarf man who looks like, if you took it to human years, he looks about 40 years old. He's got a big black beard, or, not a big dwarfy beard, but this big for human black beard, and it's got these streaks of gray in it, and very bushy black eyebrows. And he walks out, and he looks to you, first of all, and looks to each of you in turn and says, "Travelers, welcome. Welcome to our secluded corner of the world." And then he looks towards Magpie, and his and the hard edges of his face seem to soften, and he smiles and he says, "Marguerite, you don't know how happy it makes me to see you again. We all thought that you were lost. Not many people who get taken in these raids ever come back." And he just trundles over towards her and gives her a big hug around her kneecaps, and rests his forehead against the front of her thigh and steps back, clasps her hand and says, "Welcome back to Ash Hill."
Behind him, the three of us are just mouthing.
And they begin to talk a little bit. If you want to listen in, they're basically just talking about, like, okay, what happened while I was gone? And this is going to go on for a couple of minutes. If you guys want to look around the square, you have some time.
I want to look at the crowd of people and see if any of them are displaying an emotion other than, like, happy. See if anyone's kind of, like, suspicious or upset.
Very interesting. Okay, make an insight check for me.
They can't see inside our, they can't see Valoreth, right? Okay.
14.
14. So most of the people that you see around here are either happy to see one of their own return, or are just now kind of getting that one of their own is returning. The only person that you see who is not ecstatic, or that's a bit strong, the only person you see who isn't in that category is there are two people on the steps of that new stone building, the temple-like structure. Both are clad in very simple black robes. One looks to be a human man, maybe middle-aged, 55, 60. He has these deep, dark circles under his eyes, very thin face, and a wrinkled brow. And he keeps his chin up and looks down with not displeasure or anger, but with suspicion upon the lot of you, and in fact the whole congregation. And there is another person, a woman about 10 years his younger, who is standing right behind him.
Also human?
So they seem to stand apart from the crowd in most ways. They're physically removed from it as well.
Okay.
Maybe we should let Marguerite catch
Marguerite. Psychic damage from that.
Catch up with all her old friends. And...
Yes, I would like to investigate what that young man said to me. I think the temple might be of very long.
What should we do with Valoreth?
I know we should dump her in the jail, right?
Oh yeah, we should ask the burger man about it.
I think, don't say anything too loud. I think just for our safety, we shouldn't tell everyone, just him.
Okay, she's sort of in the back of an open wagon, so if we want to do that, then we should move this wagon somewhere else.
Flip your hair one more time. Thank you. I don't know, I don't want to cause a riot again.
Yeah.
The last one was on purpose.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it again sometime.
Can I go up to the burgomaster and like tap him on the shoulder?
Yeah, he and Magpie are in conversation. Magpie looks a little sullen, actually, and Hallis, the dwarf, looks up at you and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, terribly disrespectful of me. Hallis Gra, burgomaster of Ash Hill. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. If you're friends of Marguerite's, you're friends of mine. But your name?"
Oh, my name is Crown Glory Fortune Hallelujah.
You got a shorter one?
For
Crown
you, little
Glory
man.
works.
Crown Glory.
Yes.
Wow. It's Crowna. We call it Crowna.
Can I call you Crowna?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
Crowna it is. Anyway.
That's what we call you.
Anyway.
I thought it was your name.
Wait, are you going to tell us that your name is also Marguerite?
Magpie, like, turns 180 degrees around at that. She's just like,
It's a great name.
She, like, looks back a little bit and smiles at you, just like this.
I wonder if we could talk to you in private for a moment. We have some Marguerite and us 3 companions have something to discuss that might be pertinent to your township.
Very well. Marguerite's the only person who's come back from a hobgoblin raid in 10 years.
Oh, did she tell you where she's been?
No, I think we need to have a bit of a longer discussion.
Yeah, that seems like something she should tell you. Anyway, Marguerite, if we could all just shuffle off to the side and maybe block the entrance of this wagon a little bit.
She looks at you like, what? Oh, yes, good idea. Mr. Gra, can we actually take it to the town hall? Can we do that? Get a little privacy? And he looks at her, he tilts his head a bit and then nods and says, very well. Very well. Let's keep this talk away from prying eyes. And he looks towards the gathered citizenry and says, everyone, you'll have your chance to meet the returned daughter of this village another time. She'll come around. We need to have a discussion in private. And everyone begins to grumble, and people start milling about in the town square. And you are brought over towards the town hall with the burgomaster.
All right.
And do you take your cart with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let the horse have some water.
Oh, read some
apples.
documents at the town hall.
Eat some paper. Cool. So your horse is actually they're up. Actually,
And needs.
actually, but before you leave, a woman in her mid-30s, it seems, walks up to you, and who does she approach? I'd say she.
Who's approachable, Joey?
Yeah. She approaches Tico.
Oh no.
And she says, "Hey, I know you and your friends are busy. My name's Hilgrid. I am the innkeeper. I run the Thirsty Work." Oh, and she points over towards the inn, and she says, "I can handle your horse. I can take it back to the stable, get it some feed for the night.
Well, how will we move the wagon without the horse?
Though you can pull the wagon."
I don't want to pull the wagon.
We don't have money right now.
You're friends of Marguerite. I'm sure we'll work something out.
Oh, that's real kind.
We got some stuff in the wagon. We gotta unload at town hall, but we'll bring it around to you afterwards, maybe.
You got it.
Absolutely. See you later.
All right.
Thank you.
She nods. She heads back over. Okay. So you bring the wagon around back. The burgomaster's residence is attached to the second floor of town hall. So you leave the horse out back. So you pull the horse around the back of the town hall. And as you pull to a stop, Valorith, who's closest to Valorith as you're bringing the cart around?
I feel like once we get the cart moving, I went back into the wagon, sat directly in front of her, staring her dead on.
Yeah, so during the entire ride, she's just locked in the staring match with you. And then as soon as you stop, she hisses at you under her breath, "What are you going to do with me?"
Oh, you
You're a rat bastard, Saranon.
No, I'm an orc, thank you.
You got me there.
Thought you were a priest of Nerugal.
I contain multitudes.
She looks at you and
Sexily. That was a sexy roll, I heard it.
she looks at you and you hear a note of desperation enter her voice and says, "Listen, I don't want to be locked up by these hicks. Get me out of here, please."
Do you want to be in a nicer jail? No. This is what you get.
Can we hear this?
Make a perception check. I mean, as long as you're around the cart, you probably can, but...
Oh, I
Uh,
actually got a non-natural 20.
well, you can definitely hear it.
no, that's a 7.
Yeah, no, you're not paying attention at all.
What a good horse.
You're just in... Marguerite. Wow.
Marguerite.
I've seen an elf.
Or the song that you were singing. The song that you were singing is just in your head. Over and over.
Yeah.
I got it stuck in my own head. I'm like, God damn it.
Ongoing psychic damage.
To myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll fall back and stick my head in and be like,
What you talking about?
Eyes emoji.
"Are you kidding? You're a jail warden, and you want to go to jail?
No, I don't want to go to jail. I've seen what jail is like.
Yeah,
You made it that way.
You live there.
This is what you get."
You're not a nice B&B warden, you are a jail warden.
Anything you want. The sword, the holy symbol, information. I can give you anything you need.
Yeah, I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got a lot of holy symbols. I'm good. I'm
What is it you want? I can give it to you.
I want you to be in jail, I guess.
Yeah, same.
She just like looks at the ground. and then she clams up. That really shut her up.
The background crowd is just humming the whole time.
And the
Magpie, is she like hitting Crown on the front seat?
yeah, like, hey, quit it. Actually, Magpie hops out, and the cart has stopped, and she pulls the canvas back a little bit and says, "Hey, we're here."
Thanks, Marguerite.
Yeah.
I saw.
We're here at jail.
We made it.
Yeah, we're here for the jail.
And she says, "Actually,
Hello, we would like your finest jail, please.
One jail, please."
and she says, "Hey, if you don't mind, would you mind keep calling me Magpie?"
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know what you go by around.
Yeah,
all
do they
these
all
people.
know?
Do they all call you Magpie?
Are you
No.
trying to start a cool new nickname?
Yeah, your
I
jail
mean,
name.
it's been her name for.
Oh, true.
Yeah, it's been my name for 10 years.
Okay, we'll use Magpie.
Yeah,
And
Magpie's
then
good.
It'll cotton on, you know?
I don't know. It sounds cooler than Marguerite.
It
Marguerite is
does.
very cool though.
I do like it.
Just in case you need some confidence.
Really
Make a
rolls.
persuasion check.
Okay. Persuasion. Oh god.
Can I help her?
I got a natural 1.
Yes,
Very
you can
cool.
make your own persuasion check. You say that, and she looks at you, and she tries to smile, but she kind of goes like,
I'm also a priest who's lived in a temple for 15 years. I'm not exactly up and up on what's cool.
Sister Marguerite.
in literally.
There is some great literature of Nerugal written by Sister Marguerite in the early days of Auredane. She was highly respected, a virginal woman. She sequestered her days alone. She had no contact with the outside world other than a simple donkey who lived in a shed. The donkey had no legs and could not leave her. But she loved him anyway, and his name was also Marguerite because she was a very lonely woman. A brief history of Nerugal.
Oh my god.
No way, the history of Nerugal and the history of Marguerite are intertwined.
Fun facts for you. This is all canon now.
Marguerite is actually the most revered name in the Maribel priesthood.
It's like, who is that lady playwright who is also a nun?
Oh fuck! I know who you're talking about.
None of us except you two know
I
what she's
know.
Theater degree.
Where's my theater history one? I'm sorry, Jocelyn Buckner. I should know this.
She was German.
Hildsvita.
Hildsvita.
There we go.
It's exactly like Hildsvita, and you all understand that.
God, we're going deep. First
Some of
Mr.
my
Ed, now
Patreons will really
Hildsvita.
appreciate that
Yeah.
reference.
Now I'm really worried about it not being Hildsvita.
Oh my god.
Oh no, it's not Hildsvita.
I know it's something that starts with an H.
Yeah.
Oh, we really gotta nail this down right now.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's
Wait.
almost as cool
Google
as
food.
Marguerite.
Twice the Google.
Oh my god. You know what? I'm just gonna find out what the weather tomorrow is gonna be like.
Female playwright.
Ida Hagen.
Yeah.
Hildsvita.
Hrothvita, there we
Oh,
go.
How dare you?
Hi, Hrothgar, the tallest mountain in Skyrim, the throat of the world where the greybeards live.
Yeah, we gotta cut that.
Hildsvita.
Todd's
All,
gonna come
all
for
of
us.
the.
We're just gonna put a long beep over
Yeah,
it.
oh my god, the last 10 minutes, gold. The last 2 minutes, gone forever.
But yes, we'll call you Magpie.
Oh my god, I've got tears in my eyes.
You know what? I was gonna try to persuade her to give her some confidence, but
My very sad story about a dumb nun.
Hey, she was very smart.
She was a very smart nun. We respect her.
she had a dumb donkey
Hey,
who was also named Nuff.
He wasn't dumb, he was lame.
we'll use that word.
Anyway.
We'll call you Magpie.
She just like not. She's like crying, laughing a little bit too. She looks at you and says thanks.
Does Valorith know about Sister Marguerite?
No, but those cool guys at the temple.
No.
Go ask the temple. The temple
we
priests.
can all reminisce about her good work.
Magpie says, "Hey, I don't think we should leave that one unattended.
No, jail.
I mean, we got to talk with the
Yes, jail.
Yes, jail.
Burgomaster first, then jail."
Okay.
I can sit in the back with her.
I'm already here, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm not exactly good for talking to people, as we have all learned.
Let's take her with you. We should get all of us together up here, I think.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, all right.
How are we gonna take her?
I got it.
You're gonna put her under your cloak?
No, I was gonna do like a over the shoulders carry, like a sack of potatoes.
Okay.
But people will still see her.
Yeah.
You're behind the town hall.
Oh, okay.
You're out of sight.
I will say she's drunk. It's fine. Back streets, back. All right. It's a vine.
I don't know this.
It's a
song.
vine.
I forgot about that vine until just now.
It's also a Backstreet Boys song.
Yeah, that's true.
Backstreet
Anyway.
is back, all right.
So Valorith, she has been removed of her armor and of her coat. She's just got a simple, it's like that white shirt the cat has, a simple little tied up shirt, and a pair of breeches. What?
Can I take her coat?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I should refresh this knowledge. But Magpie looks fly as hell because she took one of Valorith's spare coats and like boots and all of that. So she's got that big sort of military greatcoat thing going on, and these riding boots. Oh no! I mean like we talked about this like 2 episodes ago, and Magpie did not like strip Valorith naked in the middle of the prison. She went to like Valorith's quarters and just took one of her extra things. So yeah, you can have Valorith's actual.
Which is still not stripping her naked because she's got other clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
under her coat.
I mean, yeah, all of that's already off. Like she's been de-armored and everything. De-armoring your warden.
The armor sounds like de-fleeing.
like declawing. Yeah. Anyway. So, Saranon, you've got Valorith. She is putting up like a nominal struggle. She's like trying to wiggle free a little bit, but she doesn't have her heart in it.
Yeah, I stop dead. I hop once, like, stop it. I keep going.
Yeah, and she just kind of goes limp.
Good.
You're getting carried by a very big woman. Enjoy yourself.
She she just like she looks at you and looks away.
We went over this. No, thank you.
Yeah. I'm just saying, objectively.
Magpie laughs. And you see the mayor, you see the dwarf, and he walks up this flight of stairs that goes around the outside of the house and up to a second-story door. And you follow him up there, and you find yourself in a simple but comfortable living room, for lack of a better word. There's no fireplace because it's a second story thing, but there is a mat on the floor. You can see some like that's what it is. There is a brass bowl of glowing embers in the middle of the floor that gives off a little bit of light and heat, and a couple of.
It was a bowl of candy.
Oh, happy Halloween! And God, by the time this episode comes out, it's going to be like January. That Happy Halloween is going to...
I almost wore like all of the Halloween shit I bought at Spirit. Like a skeleton hand and skeleton earrings.
I mean, that would still be on brand. Yeah, that
That's true. I'll do it next time.
Anyway, it's not fancy by any stretch of the imagination. It really does look like a middle of nowhere town, but it is the mayor's house, and it's nice for what it is. He sits down, he crosses his legs on the grass mat in the middle of the room, and he takes a deep breath in.
Okay?
Yes. He looks up at Valorith on your shoulders and says, "It seems we have a lot to talk about." Magpie gives the quick rundown. She was like, "Yeah, I was kidnapped in a hobgoblin raid, and they took me in a cart through the forest. I was blindfolded, gagged, bound. I had no idea where I was going. I was in total darkness the entire time. And then I felt the cart going up and up a big hill, and I woke up in the place that I learned was called Bloodrock Delve. It was a prison, a labor camp." And she looks over at Valorith and says, "And she was the warden. Those 10 years, she made my life a living hell." And Valorith clenches her jaw and says nothing. And Magpie goes on to say, "They had me in the mines, the Sanguinite mines, for a little while. But eventually, I just became too much of a nuisance. I was stealing things. I was pestering the guards. I was pulling pranks on the warden. I was doing everything I could to make their lives just as hellish as they made mine. And they threw me down in maximum security for it. They threw me down in that cell in the deepest, bleakest part of the prison, with the open wall at the far end so I could always look down upon the blasted hellscape, the ashen fields beyond, so I could see that mountain." And she looks out the window and gazes up westward and sees the lava-strewn peak of Renault's Anvil, the lightning storm that constantly swirls around it. "I always had that to look at." And she looks at Valorith and she says, "I always had that view to remind me that I would get back home, that I would see that mountain from another angle someday." And she looks at her and just spits right at her feet. So there's that. And the mayor, the burgomaster, Hallis, looks over towards you and says, "Well, Marguerite has already told me that you met deep down in prison, but she also told me that you three have a very strange story. That you come from another world?"
Oh, Magpie, you just went straight to that, huh?
And she shrugs her shoulders and says, It was the weirdest part of the whole thing. Prison for 10 years is one thing. Meeting," and she looks aside and kind of smiles jokingly, "extra-dimensional travelers." That's something else.
I thought you were going to say extraterrestrials, which might also be true. We don't know.
She laughs and just and looks away.
Have you heard of any others? Stories like this? Has anyone else come to your town that wasn't from around here?
She looks at you for a moment and she says, "We've had visitors, but no one like you. No one who claims to be from another realm, who doesn't know the names of the great cities, who doesn't know the emperor's name, who doesn't know the name of Tenebrae, who thinks that the dead gods are alive and the living ones are dead." Yeah, you learned this from someone. I just edited that episode. You've heard that name before.
Probably that
Or
orc
jog
was
me
helping
again.
us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah, the orc told you. Yes.
We're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
If I could ask the mayor, in the last 10 years, while Magpie was locked away, does any weird visitors?
I suppose all visitors would be weird visitors to you. Many things have happened in this small town since Marguerite left us, since she was taken from us. I have already told her that the happy reunion she was hoping for will not happen. Her parents are no longer in this town. They too were taken in a raid. They and 10 others. Ash Hill is a safe town, comparatively, for its size. It's in such a remote and isolated part of the world, so far from Marinval, so far from Renault's anvil. And it is protected by the strange magic of the dead forest that we are usually left alone, but there are hobgoblins who have learned the secrets of the forest, who have made strange agreements with the border devils, with the lesser fiends who roam the edges of Kylumbra to the north. They have strange powers, and they use them to have their way with the people of this land, take them as slaves, use them as laborers, devour them, do whatever they wish.
Like eat them? Oh. No. Not good, not good.
Not all of them suffer this fate. They need laborers. They need whelps to push around, but... So I have told Marguerite that there is still hope for her, but it has been 3 years.
Where do the hobgoblins live?
I'm afraid we don't know. We know the identity of their leader, a beast known as the Iron Shadow. But beyond that, we know their camp is somewhere in the foothills here. Maybe someday we will find them, but we are not warriors. We have palisades and we have a militia, but we are not warriors. I'm sorry, that was so somber a tale. The visitor I wished to speak of was the new priest. Just before Marguerite was taken, that was a Joey mistake. Just before Marguerite was taken, our village priest and his acolytes were mysteriously spirited away in the night. They left without a trace. Perhaps they fled for personal reasons, perhaps they were taken. But those were hard times for this village.
Someone else said that the old priest was a priest of Kiev.
That's correct.
Was the whole temple of Kiev.
That's correct. In fact, there was no temple. The temple you saw in the town square is new. Of the last several years, new.
Remind me who Kiev is again? Which one?
Nature.
Nature.
Yeah.
Yes, Kieva was once one of the patron gods of this realm. She is a goddess of nature, bounty, and without the priests here, they were hard times, lean times. We had to rely on shipments of food from elsewhere, from other traveling priests who gave us kindness. But when Brother Rescus came to town and his priests of Nergal, they built the stone temple that you see in the middle of town. They began creating food for us again, and the lean times were over.
What kind of food do Miracle priests have?
Oh, the
Halloween candy.
oh, the same sort of food that all priests have.
It's just food.
I thought the nature goddess would make wheat and
No, she certainly helps grow
Like what
vegetables
kind
and
of food do
crops.
priests make? I don't know. Priests make food.
I mean, it's food.
My temple.
It's created food. It's holy food.
Like they make it out of nothing. They don't grow it.
Is this a thing?
Yes.
Is that a thing?
Yes.
No food. No one has grown food in centuries.
Oh, so I shouldn't be saying yes.
I mean, you are well aware that priests can create food. It's a
Okay.
3rd level spell, create food and water.
Oh.
There you go. But
So like there are no farmers
no-
around or anything. Like no one's growing zucchinis in their backyard, you know?
the mayor looks at Magpie for a moment and furrows his brow and does a small nod, and he says, "There are farmers. They farm the land, the soil and the rock."
What do they do with the
grow?
rocks?
Oh dear.
Are they growing rocks? I don't get
Yeah,
it.
what?
They're dirt farmers. They're stone farmers.
Do you eat rocks?
That's not how rocks work.
No.
No, we sell it. It's the primary export of this village and most other ones.
What do you guys use rocks for?
The capital needs stone. It needs stone and earth. Marinval needs it. We don't know. We just know that when the Emperor's agents come by monthly, they pay quite well for the stone that we farm and the earth that we mine.
Do you
That's
like...
mining. It's not farming, my man.
Wait, is it like rock that's already there and you dig it out? Or do you grow rocks like seeds?
Oh no, no one can grow rocks.
Okay.
This
well,
is... See, you keep calling it farming, and it's very alarming to us. Because farming is for
farm
growing,
alarm.
growing food.
Farm alarm chili.
Yes.
Are they making something with stone, maybe?
I have tried to learn that many times, but it seems though even the people who collect the minerals that we farm have no idea what it's being used for. They take it to Marinval and they I don't know.
And these are just regular rocks. It's not like the fancy red ones.
It's just the earth, the sanguinite. I have heard of this. It is this rare mineral said to be the blood of the gods themselves.
Oh, I don't care for that.
I don't think so. I think it was just rocks.
Very hot rocks.
Like really, yeah, like really hot rocks.
One hurt me very bad.
You are fine.
Yes, the local governor is very interested in sanguinite. She has, well, I've never been myself, but the legends say that the ruby eyrie itself is made from bricks of sanguinite.
That's what we heard.
At any rate, if you truly are from a place where the good earth grows green things, where plants can grow and food can be harvested from fields.
I have proof. And I pull out the little book that I have of leaf pressings and flower pressings, and I show it to him. These are, my companion and I, we used to travel together, and we would take little bits of earth with us as a blessing.
He takes the book, and you can see that his hands are trembling a little bit, and he pops it open, and he sees a page filled with pressed leaves and petals and other blooms, and he looks at it, and you can his short, stubby, hairy fingers, dirt caked underneath the nails. They gingerly touch the pressings. And you hear his breath shudder a little bit, and water well up in his eyes. This is unbelievable.
Well, do you believe us? No, we are not from here.
There is no way that anyone from Tenebrae could have anything like this. And he closes the book and he passes it back to you.
Hey, do you think you could sell something like that for a lot of money?
No!
I'm just saying, if you give him a page of it, then, like...
This is all I have of...
I mean, it's your shit. Like, do with it what you want. But if you hand something that's valuable to them, it could help out their town a lot.
We'll find them. We'll get back.
The mayor... Make a perception check for me, Tika.
Well, 11?
You put your hand on Saranon's shoulder like you did, and you can see Magpie looking at the book, and she looks at it not with the shock and amazement that the burgomaster expressed when he saw it, but her reaction is less intense than his. That's what you notice.
Okay.
And she leans in to look at it. She furrows her brow and bites her lip and then leans back and puts her hand in front of her mouth thinking about something.
Okay.
And the burgomaster turns back and says, I don't know where you could sell something like this, a collector, maybe. Maybe if you found a Temple of Kieva, perhaps, they would be very interested. I'm sure they would make a fine symbol out of that. It would be very significant to them. But this all started because we were talking about food. The fields that once grew food centuries ago are all fallow. They're harvested for soil now. Nothing grows here. The fact that these 3 ash trees stand upon our hill, dead, leafless, but neither petrified nor rotting. That simple thing alone is enough for us to see it as a blessing of the dead gods. Even though for many, many years nothing has grown, they remain. They do not disappear. The priests that came to our town, Brother Rescus, is a priest of Nergal, and he was assigned to us by... Well, if he's to be believed, he was assigned to us by an official in the capital. All villages around here have priests assigned to them. Otherwise, we'd starve. As long as we pay our tribute and we give our earth and stone and we pay our taxes, then the priests that we were assigned will put food and water on our table.
Are they all priests of Nergal or just different?
No, there are priests of all gods. It seems as though when our Kievan followers disappeared, we just happened to get Nergalian ones this time. Every 10 years or so, the priest will be rotated to another assignment. Sometimes it's as short as 5. Sometimes they love it so much in the village that they will ask for a permanent station. Brother Rescus is kind enough. He does fine services for our dead, and even for those that are taken. He produces enough food for people to eat, and his priests are skilled brewers as well, so the tavern always has ale. Yes, he's I would describe him as something of a dour man, but a reasonably kind-hearted one.
It comes with the territory.
Well, he sounds wonderful. A real asset to your town. Now, this one, Warden Valorith here.
She looks up.
What do you want to do with her? Because Magpie here seems to have the notion that y'all throw her in your town jail and she'll face justice, etc., etc.
The burgomaster nods and says, "We don't have a jail. There is a cell in the armory. It's It's got iron bars. It has a lock. We use it to keep captured goblins if they ever invade, and we manage to take a prisoner of our own.
I'm worried
And
that
she'll
if you-
break out.
Yeah, one, that she'll break out. Two, that if you do manage to keep her here, someone will hear about it and come get her.
Yeah, when they come and get the taxes.
Yeah.
Also, if you only have one cell, then you'll only be able to have her.
That is true.
Yeah.
And Valorith sits up at the mention of that, and she says, "You're absolutely right. I am a servant of Lady Carnelian of the Ruby Eyrie, your local governor. I will not be held by you people."
I put, my hand, down on top of her head. Anyway, I think, feel free to discard this advice, but I give wonderful advice. I think your best bet either is to let her go or to use her as leverage. Just contact the capital or the governor before anyone from there finds out that she's here and comes, enacts a mission to come fetch her and be like, we have her, and we have also these demands, maybe some protection from hobgoblins, maybe more resources, etc., and we'll hand her back over peacefully.
That seems risky, I don't know.
It seems risky, but it could have a great reward. I'll consider it.
No gain without pain.
Yes, I'm well aware. He looks up and he says, "We'll hold her for the night at least, while we deliberate on what to do. Your advice does seem risky, but you're right, we can't hold her here forever."
Hey, maybe this isn't right, but would the hobgoblins want her in exchange?
Magpie, eyes wide, looks at you, and you see this gigantic smile cross over her face. A trade. And the burgomaster looks over towards her and says, "Marguerite, don't get hasty. This is not..." And Magpie looks at you and says, "That's such a good idea. If my parents are being held, they're just farmers. If we can hand over..." She had 2 medals on her jacket. She's high ranking. She's a warden of a prison. This is a great idea. If we can get in touch with the hobgoblins, we can find the Iron Shadow, then we can... And she stops talking and she stands up and she just starts walking around and kind of muttering an idea, a plan out to herself under her breath, and not cackling, but nodding along and being quite pleased with herself.
My worry about that is hobgoblins, while an annoyance, are not exactly a strong opponent. I worry that she may overpower them and just come back.
Yeah, but if the alternative is just to give her back anyway.
You're a bloodthirsty kid. I
I
know
don't
that
know,
about
I
you.
thought-
It's pretty cool.
I don't think they're gonna kill her. I was thinking, because, the hobgoblins were the ones who took us first, too.
Yeah.
Maybe they could use her to trade back to the capital, and then the town doesn't
And
have
then
to
we wouldn't
take
have
the
to,
brunt of...
deal directly with the capital. No, you're right. If you either have to deal with the capital or with the hobgoblins, I don't know if there's more risk in either one. I feel like they're as good an option as any.
The other worry is that she works with the Iron Shadow, and they both come to attack this village.
Oh.
Because she doesn't exactly have the best morals.
Valorith looks to you and says, "You're absolutely right. I'm working with the Iron Shadow and you should not hand me over to her."
Shut up.
Why did you wink? Is there something in your eye? And I pry it around.
She holds up a hand right in front of that blue scarred eye and she says, "Don't touch the eye."
Don't touch any eyes, please.
It's just an eye. I worked with the bodies. It's fine.
Yeah, but we're alive.
It's not for your sake, it's for the other person's sake. Do you understand that?
Don't cover your eyes. So, don't be such a baby.
Okay, I guess.
The burgomaster says to you, My aides and I will handle Valorith. We will make sure that she gets to the armory, that she's locked up, and that she'll be imprisoned for the night.
Oh, excellent. So we don't have to deal with
No,
her
no
anymore.
offense, but I would like to walk with them myself.
If you'd like to go, we'd appreciate the help.
Yes, I'm just kidding her again. It'll be fine.
I was told that she had a blade and a holy symbol.
Oh,
I have the holy symbol. I think you have the blade.
Yeah, I have a sword.
Okay, very good. That's fine. As long as she has neither of those, I think she should be harmless. Valorous snarls a little bit.
Yes, you're very cunning.
With that out of the way, this dwarf sets his heavy brow and looks at you each. We should find you a place to stay.
We were offered one by Gilgrid.
Ah, at the inn. Yes, very good. We don't get a lot of travelers around here, so those rooms often lay empty. People tend to... Actually, we use them most for people who have too much to drink at night.
We don't have any money.
Yes, we've none.
Oh, but she said since we're such good friends of Magpie, that we can stay there and it's fine.
Is that okay?
If she said you can stay there, it should be reasonable, but...
Excellent.
The horse.
But it feels... Oh my god, you're right.
I'll just stay at the temple.
The burgomaster nods though and says, without you, we wouldn't have the daughter of our village back. Marguerite wouldn't have made it back here without the three of you. I hope you don't feel too mercenary if I pay you a little bit for your actions.
No,
Jeez,
not a
we need
bit.
money.
Yeah, we have
Awesome.
nothing. Our pockets are
Well,
full
I mean,
of
I
wit.
have a little bit, but it's... And I take out my coin. Does this mean anything to you?
Remind me what that coin was.
Oh, God. Look at my purse.
I've used a lot of fake money so far. I hope you don't mind me telling you that as a government official.
He raised his hand and says, "Please, I don't consider myself a government official. I'm the master of this town, and I have dealings with the Empire.
Master, yes.
But
I wrote down German cryptid feathers.
yeah, you got the Wolpertinger feathers.
Oh!
Really, yeah.
Okay, I have 500 silver.
Okay,
Did you take them off, like...
No one.
Oh, really?
I think you took them from Valorith's office.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I take out a couple of the silver. I'm like, is this your money?
This is local money. Yes.
Okay, and then I also have 15 gold
Okay.
from our world.
Oh.
Oh,
yeah.
like money, paper money.
Paper buddy. You want these pieces of useless paper, you piece of shit?
Oh, capitalism is fake.
I take out one of the bills and I'm like, is this money?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay.
Is this music?
Yes, where we come from, we use this kind of currency. I don't know. I'll just throw it away.
It's kind of lame, it's not as stylish as shiny gold coins, but
It's much easier.
But paper's worthless. I'm
You're
sorry.
right.
I'm sorry. I don't understand.
Alright.
He goes over towards a desk of his and he rifles around in it, and you can hear a bit of clinking. And he takes out a handful of 20 gold coins, of 21 gold coins, and he places it on the table. You look around; they have a little ridged edge, like a U.S. quarter would have, and they have a face you recognize, the face of Renault, printed on the front end, and an icon on the back end that I believe Crouna recognizes because it appeared on a flag in our duo session with you and Astrid. It is a inverted triangle, a long inverted triangle with 3 interconnecting rings within it. And the burgomaster says, "Okay, so if you're not from around here, then the first thing you should know is," and he puts one of these coins face up and points and taps on the face, says, "That's Emperor Renault."
We know that.
yeah, that dead motherfucker.
Okay, I suppose the Emperor's not dead.
Have you seen him lately? Because we saw him, like 3 days ago?
Yeah, we killed him
he's
dead.
Yeah, but a lot of things are
Oh, that's kind of a
different,
secret, wasn't it? Oops.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Everyone dies eventually.
Yeah,
Whoa,
it's the way of things.
I'm never gonna die.
And it just happens that we were the end
I don't
of
know
that
if we should
one.
be talking about that so loud
We
here.
kind of already said it, though.
In prison, and everyone just kind of jacks up their stories in prison, right, Magpie?
We
Yeah.
killed the Emperor.
Magpie nods a little uncertainly, and the burgomaster just he's a little slack jawed. He's looking at you weird, and he says, "I think I would have heard if the emperor had been killed."
Well,
Okay.
Did he die? I didn't see a body. I know he turned
Maybe
into
his soul just
dust.
sort of left his skeleton.
Yeah, he looked like a skeleton in the end.
Yeah,
he
we
was
smashed it right
a
out
kind
of
of like a
him.
lich.
Okay. Anyway, the other side of this coin, that's the imperial flag.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
It's the crest of Tenebrae. So the mayor has placed 21 gold coins on the table. He pushes 7 towards each of you. I don't know how you're keeping track of gold. Are you just kind of keeping it in one pile, or are you?
wrote mine
I
down.
just wrote mine down.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote mine.
Cool.
7.
I also wrote 20, so 7.
All for you, huh?
Yeah.
Half a gold for the rest of us, huh? Tico. Really
Hey,
looking.
Penny.
Please, sir, may I have a happening?
Gesundheit.
What's happening?
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Cut this
Keep
footage.
your skillful narration going, please.
Thanks.
Let's see.
How much is this worth, do you think?
It's worth what it's worth. It's gold. It's currency.
Yeah, but can it buy us a sword or just a piece of bread?
If I give someone all of this gold for a piece of bread, am I overpaying them?
Oh yeah. Oh, immensely.
How much is bread?
I think. Well,
In this economy, how much is bread?
How many years would Valjean go to jail?
if okay.
Yeah,
If-
you convert this gold to years of Valjean's life.
If you're just going to the temple and looking for a simple meal, then a silver will be all you're paying.
For each or all 3?
Per person.
Okay.
You'll probably spend, if you're talking about meals, you'll spend about 3 silver for a day.
And how much silver is in a gold?
10.
10.
Oh, that's easy. I can remember that.
If you're looking for armor, weaponry, that sort of thing, you would be dealing in gold.
Okay.
And he hands you a player's handbook and says,
Get up, bitch, and I say, I can't read that!
Magpie says, okay, we should probably find a place to stay for the night, get some rooms. If you guys have anything else you want to do in town, I think now's a good time to do it. Maybe tomorrow we'll figure out what our next move is.
Yeah, I want to eat.
Yeah.
And then I want to play some music and get some money. And then I want to sleep.
Wait,
In that
Or
order.
did they pay you in rocks?
They're not going to pay me in rocks. They have real money. We just got real money. Tico.
Have we tested that these are made out of rock?
That's gold, all
Gold
right.
is technically a rock.
It is.
That's a rock
Everything is
fact.
rocks.
Everything's rocks. It's rocks all the way down.
This water? Rocks.
Yum, yum, yum.
This bar rocks.
I have friends who are geologists, and this. No, I don't.
I have friends who are rocks.
This bar rocks.
Yeah.
Did you just now get that?
I just got it.
Good job.
Can I have a little huddle? Can we huddle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Without
Me
Magpie?
very tall, just kind of hovering.
As you're huddling, the mayor has got some people, and they're taking Valorith.
Okay, wait for me.
Okay.
Just outside though.
Yep.
Well,
How do you feel about the priests? Do you want to go in here first, or you want to sneak?
Oh, don't
Why do
sneak
we
up on
need to-
Priest of Marigold. Oh my god.
Oh.
yeah, they'll kill you dead.
Yes, I have
No, I
many
thought
death
they were-
spells.
Oh, I thought they didn't. Okay.
I mean, they usually don't, but if you sneak into their temple, it's gonna be bad news bears for you.
And then they can't revive you because they don't like doing that shit. So lazy.
I wonder if there are more diamonds in this world if everything is made of rocks, and then I could revive anyone, but I won't.
Yeah, we know. You made that clear. Thank you.
They seem a little, I don't know, kind of weird.
I was going to go to the evening service and see what's up.
Okay,
Do
you
they
do
have
that.
an
I
evening
don't
service?
care.
My temple had an evening service.
The mayor is busy.
I'm asking Magpie, although I guess she wouldn't know.
She's
No,
busy.
she's busy.
Yeah, she doesn't
We
know.
have excluded her.
All right.
She's sulking.
But yes, I'm going to go see if they have an evening service, because my temple had one.
You shouldn't go alone.
I think it'd be easier for me to go alone, because you don't care, and you seem nervous.
That just seems kind of weird. They seem kind of, well, no offense.
They do seem weird.
They
It
seem,
Yeah.
doesn't seem like my business.
It's just how we go. But I think, as a fellow priest of Nergal, they might be less suspicious of me.
that's true. They work for the capital.
Yes. But I mean, I don't think they'll do anything. And even if they do, I've got so many weapons.
You do have many weapons.
Alright.
You got these big old guns too.
These aren't guns, these are arms. What's a gun?
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Cool. So you, Saranon, you help get Valorith into the armory, and you walk through the door, and you see that gnome who walked up to you earlier. He looks at you and says, "Oh, still here."
Back again.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
present.
and
It's her. I'm going to put her in jail. Can you open the door for me?
He does. He gets out a key ring and he opens up. He goes into the way back. There are just like these racks of spears all along the edge of the wall. There's some simple. They're made of stone shields. All the spears are not. They do not have wooden hafts. They have iron hafts. And he opens up this gate, or the cell, and the three people, including Saranon, chuck Valorith in there, and the gnome closes the cell, and he says to Valorith, he looks her in the eye and says, "I don't know who the hell you are. I don't know why you're in here, but that's not my job."
Oh, like this man.
Okay,
Good
well,
attitude.
Okay.
She did bad stuff. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I'll give you food in the morning and food in the night. Bye-bye. And he turns around, leaves the back room, and leaves Valorith alone in the dark.
Okay, bye.
Is there like a torch I can light?
Yeah, she should be in the dark.
Yeah, there's a torch sconce that you can...
Okay, I just...
So now there is a little bit of light glowing in this room.
Okay, that is so you don't get scared in it. Farewell.
All right, you head out back into the center of town, and Magpie is with you, and she sort of points out the buildings as you go around. She says, "Okay, so this is the armory. I guess you know that. There's also a training yard back here for people, for like the villagers to train up their swordsmanship. I don't know. You guys seem skilled enough that you don't really need to whack dummies around. I guess you're always whacking dummies around." She laughs at her joke. And she points over towards the north end of the town square, and she says, "That's the general shop. It's called Higgins Goods. Mr. Higgins runs it."
Figured.
She points to a little hut that is way north, far beyond the center of town, and actually pretty close to the hill. And she says, "That's the sorcerer's hut. We have an elf who lives here in town, and he stays pretty secluded from most of the village."
Are there a lot of elves here?
Not a lot. We only have this one here in town, but he's been here forever. I mean, I've heard he's over 300 years old.
They sell magical goods?
Mm-hmm. I know he mostly does little good luck charms and stuff for people, but the people around here, they aren't adventurers, they aren't wanderers or travelers. So mostly when people So mostly when people go into battle, he gives them potions.
Say it. Say it. What is he?
A potion seller.
I really did not know where you were going with that
I'm going into battle. I need your strongest potions.
You can't handle my potions. Damn it!
Christ.
God.
D&D.
But most of he also has some other things, little charms and trinkets, and I don't know. I'm sure he has something that you could use if you went up.
His name.
His name is Zarus.
Gesundheit? What now?
Zarus Riedling.
How do you spell that?
Zaroos. Zarus.
Brother?
Sounds Dutch.
Slow down, please.
Zarus.
I can't read that.
Come on.
Aroos.
Okay. That all came at me real quick.
Let's see.
What was that gnome's name? He's a very brisk fellow.
Oh yeah, his name is Garth.
Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks the gnome.
No, Garth Bolo.
Garth
Garth
Bolo?
Bolo tie?
Yeah.
Bolo, father of Darth Solo.
off. It's a knockoff Star Wars character.
Yeah, what? I didn't even think
He's
about that. I
country
just
Han
thought-
Solo. He's Garth Bolo, and he's a country singer, and he starred in A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga.
Star Wars is born.
A Star Wars is born.
This doesn't age well.
Also, I said Darth Solo earlier.
That's not a. I mean, that's kind of Kylo Ren.
yeah.
Technically.
I mean, spoiler alert, but also not really.
It's been
No, it's
4
been-
years.
yeah.
Has it been 4 years?
By the time these episodes
3 years.
out, Yes.
Yeah.
Garth Bolo.
No, it's been almost 4 years.
Yeah.
And yet John Boyega's still out here looking just mwah.
You're right.
Listen, we aren't talking about John Boyega. We're talking about Garth Bolo, my dude.
Ugh. Still out here looking. Ugh.
Interesting. Who else is in town?
You already met Hilgrid Larksdaughter. She runs the inn, the Thirsty Work.
Is that next to Hickham's Goods?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's right next to it. It's also right next to the temple. I talked to the burgomaster about it a little bit, and he says it's called the Temple of the Dreamer.
Ooh, that makes sense.
I don't know the names of anyone who's in there. That place is new to me. It was built after I was gone.
Brother Restus.
Are there
Yes.
still like people out and about in the square?
It's getting to be kinda nighttime.
But there's like a commotion or like no one's hanging around talking to each other.
People have mostly dispersed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I look at the well?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the well. It's this. It's an uncovered little ring of stones.
Dangerous.
Mm-hmm. And you look in, and it's about 20 feet deep.
And it looks just like regular water.
It looks like more or less regular water. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I shout into the well and see if it amplifies the sound?
Oh yeah.
Ah!
Are you just learning about science now?
Oh, hello!
And someone in the well yells, "Shut up! This is my house."
My well.
Your voice echoes, "Hello." Make a perception check for me.
Oh,
Ah,
why
no.
did you do it?
11?
Okay. So your voice, "Hello." It gets all really quiet, and then you hear it get louder again for a moment, "Hello," as if it's echoing back up, and then it disappears.
Interesting.
Do it
Was
again.
it like contained within the well or did it like spread out?
It seems to be contained within the well, yeah.
Okay. Bummer. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna unsling Sudden Death and start playing it. Like, I'm
Oh.
gonna like perch on the lip of the well and start playing
Oh,
it
this is
down.
so dangerous.
Make a performance check for me, please.
Okay. 12. 26.
Wow,
God.
very nice.
I've been waiting to perform for so long.
You play a. Okay, what kind of song are you playing?
What's the song that plays during the water level of Mario games?
Yeah, sure, that.
Or Katamari song.
Yeah. So you play a calm but upbeat song, Into the Well, and 26, huh? And like 8 people gather around the well to listen to you play. And your music, it's a really interesting effect because your music will echo into the well and will sort of reverberate and amplify out of it. And it doesn't sound like a pure sound, but it creates this neat reverb effect, and people are into it.
You just invented like EDM.
That's very fitting.
And
Crown is the original EDM game. But it makes so much sense.
Perfect.
and when your song is done,
It's not done.
oh, you're gonna keep it going.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna try to get more people to come out here
come
and
on.
listen to me. Like, I'm banging my foot against the lip of the well, like, come get your juice! Don't you know the daughter of the village is home? Come and welcome her! You bastards!
I hear Crown say that, and I go over to Magpie and I say, "That's you!" And I pick her up.
Ah!
She's here!
Ah!
Say hello!
And she like holds her arms and says, "Hi!" Ah!
Magpie. You gotta make the Magpie song.
Yeah, I'm like,
Magpie singing in the dead of night.
I'll like sing a little ditty about how like, oh, Marguerite's home, but she's changed. Well, she's got it. Now she's Magpie, everyone!
Oh.
Magpie!
Yeah, look at her.
Everyone welcome Magpie home!
Oh my gosh.
What a party.
That's so wild.
We start a rave. Like bang my foot against the well to get that reverb going of the
Boom, boom, boom.
Tico, that's your job actually.
Oh no, I'm terrible with them.
All offbeats. I'm clapping on 2 and 4. Oh my gosh, what happens? I think that you really get the town to rally around the name Magpie. I think you get like a crowd of 20, 25 people out here. People come out of the tavern, people come out of their shops to gather around, and like they get that Marguerite's name is Magpie now.
Can I start her on like a crowd surf?
There's like 20
Yeah,
people.
there's enough people to crowd
Let's just pass her off a little bit.
Can you levitate her? Do you have that
No.
spell? No.
That's a really sweet thing to do. Take that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Cool.
You already have one.
And then I toss out like my vest on the ground and put like sprinkle a couple of gold coins in there to make the suggestion.
Someone takes one. No.
Beat them up.
Thank you. No one does that.
Make a penny, leave a penny.
Do they have busking in this world?
They do now.
They do now, baby. And some people toss a couple of copper coins into your vest. You wrangle up a total of 3 silver and 20 copper by the end of this.
Cool.
Nice. That'll get you 3 bread.
20 bread.
3 silver.
What?
3 silver, 20 copper. That's 5 bread.
That's 5 whole bread.
It is 5 whole bread.
That's 5 entire bread.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. It's Crown Glory, Fortune, Hallelujah. Tell your friends to tell their friends. And I go into the tavern to get some food.
Nice.
Isn't the food at the temple?
I mean, it's a tavern.
Oh, okay.
They can probably mass order the food from
That's
the temple.
true.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. I think that's a perfect place for us to take a break.
Yeah.
Go get some bread.
Yeah.
Let's get this bread.
Let's get this bread. All right. See ya. Bye now. Hey folks, welcome to the middle of the episode. Thanks for sticking with us so far. I want to talk to you real quick about our usual sponsor, Kobold Press, and a couple of other special things that I want to show off for you. I told you about those Wormwood dice trays we were given very generously by Wormwood Gaming earlier in the episode. I want to show them off to you. They're really pretty. First of all, this episode does not have very much in the way of combat in it, so those wonderful books that Kobold Press has very graciously provided us, the Creature Codex and the Tome of Beasts, will not be featuring in this episode, but we are still eternally grateful to them, and they have been great sponsors to us. So I want to give a shout out to those books. They're full of great new monsters, each one nearly 400 new monsters for 5th edition. Each one of those books is just as good as the core monster manual, packed with crazy creatures from mythology, and trust me, I know, I wrote some of them. Kobold Press has got some pretty good deals going on this holiday season, and they just put out a new book full of adventures for 5th edition called Midgard Sagas. I think that is a very cool book, and you should definitely check it out. Those are adventures that have been play-tested, on the convention circuit in organized play, and so they've had all the little kinks ironed out of them, and they play really fast, really well, and very smoothly, because they have to in order to fit into a convention-sized time slot. I think you'll like the Midgard Saga's adventures. They're weird and wild and very Tenebrae, I guess. Okay, here, come with me. I'm going to show you the new Wormwood dice tray. Let's take a look. Now, Wormwood very kindly gave us 6 beautiful dice trays, one for each player character in Worlds Apart. And this one is a fantastic purple heart wood dice tray that Kat Lou uses when she plays the Tiefling Bard Krauna. And you can see right there on the leather is engraved the Worlds Apart logo. That just blows me away. It's incredible, the sort of beautiful work that Wormwood can do with these dice trays. Now, I'm just super pleased with what we got. These trays are absolutely beautiful, and I'm super happy. Thank you so much, Wormwood, for letting us use these. Okay, that's all for now. I won't take up any more of your time. I will get us right back to the game, and right back to the unusual happenings in the village of Ash Hill. See you later. And we're back. We're going to enter the Thirsty Work Tavern and see what more there is to learn about the village of Ash Hill. Okay, so you step into the tavern, and it's a fairly lively place. A lot of people are following you, actually. They're heading back in after Krauna's performance, and people are talking to one another. They're muttering back and forth. Like, we should have her around more often. Did you hear her play like that? It's like, no, I don't go out to listen to villagers.
Someone to buy me a meal and a drink.
Make a persuasion check with advantage, then.
Just made 5 whole bread.
5 whole breads. Plus 18.
18. You find someone. Okay, what kind of person do you want to find?
Describe your perfect NPC.
Let's see.
Do you want me to do it for you? Because I think I've got a pretty good read.
What? Oh, no, it's fine. Like a mousy girl, just kind of chill in the corner.
Cool.
That's exactly. I was gonna say, yeah, short, quiet, and looks at you with respect.
I don't like quiet people.
Mousy?
I mean, that just describes, like...
someone who would be easily swayed to buy me a drink.
Wow. So, like, a chump.
Yeah.
Joey, who's your chumpiest NPC? So yeah, you find this girl. You know that she was out at the performance earlier.
Woman, please.
Fair. Yeah, you find this chump, and you convince her to get you a meal, and she goes along with it. She's like, yeah, that was a really good show. Do you think you're sticking around?
Oh, around here? Mm-hmm. Who knows? Just going where the wind takes me.
That's exciting. All right, yeah, let me get you a meal while you're here.
Yeah, all right.
And she goes over to the bartender, who is, you saw her earlier. She's Hildred, this tall woman with very, very dark blonde hair. And she goes back into a back room, and she pulls out it's like a little, how do I describe it? It's a stone basket almost. It's like when you go to a Mexican restaurant and there's a little clay container that they keep all the tortillas in for when you get that sort of thing. It's kind of like that. It's a little small clay pot, and she brings it out. She opens it up and says, all right, here's some food for the night. Can I get you a drink too?
Yes, please, and one for the lady.
Sure thing. And you look inside this sort of reddish brown vessel, and it's bread of some sort. It is round bread that has a sort of whitish brown even coloration, and it's been cut evenly into 6 triangular slices. And you pick it up. It's about an inch thick. You look at it. It looks kind of bland, but you bite into it, and it's soft and spongy, and then it kind of crumbles away in your mouth, and you chew on it for a little while. It's not what you'd call good.
It's a bad bake.
But it's not bad either. It's kind of bland is what it is. But it is filling. And it has been a while since you've had food. It's not unlike that lembas bread. It's got some roughage in it. There's little bits of like
just rocks.
just pure dirt.
Well, they farm them.
Yeah. It has a bit of what kind of feels like a nut, like it crunches and it tastes like, was there like a walnut in there? So it's not just like pure white flour stuff.
How do they have nut? Oh, because the clerics sign it.
Right. And you go ahead and eat it, and it's fine. You're definitely full now.
All right. It's really excellent. Let's split this, maybe?
Sounds good. And a glass tankard goes out to you as well, and it has what looks to be fairly cheap-looking beer in it.
All right. Thank you, Hildred. Cheers, sweetheart.
She raises her glass and says, cheers to you. Hope you stay a little longer. Clink. She drinks down.
We should get a lot of bread so we can take it.
It won't only last 24 hours. I'm familiar with this spell.
What's the point of that?
Can't hoard it.
I get the feeling that people do not travel very much in this world.
That sucks.
Yes, well, this is what it is, I think, here.
So how are we gonna get out of here? By leaving, presumably.
Well, hopefully there's another town that we could get to within the next 24 hours.
Oh, yikes. I mean, I guess we can
If
go
not,
for longer.
I might still have some rations on me from...
Oh,
Yeah, is there any food in the bag holding?
actually.
That's a good question. I don't know.
You were the one who was in charge of it. Guess what? She hasn't written down anything.
I typed in all this
I
shit.
have
one day of rations. I have water skin. And I guess I have a day of rations, too.
Yeah, me too.
It's not a whole lot, but... Alright, anyway. I'm gonna order some bread.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some too. And whatever, I'm gonna ask for the strongest beer they have. Which
Very
is, I assume, just the same shit that she got.
Yeah, you ask for that, and Hildred looks at you apologetically and says, we got one kind, sweetheart.
It's alright, I'm gonna drink it anyways.
And she looks at you with a little bit of pity in her eyes, and she just slides over a mug.
I will also get ale.
Very good. And
I am of age.
Just really gotta emphasize
That
that.
age is 10.
no,
No! Although I do not have an ID, so.
yeah, Hildred cards you.
It says adult on it.
I can do what I want.
It doesn't say that because I can't write.
True.
Yeah.
You had Mara write it for you.
There, aww.
Oh wait, that's
One of
cute
Mara's
though.
kids made you a fake
Aw. That's so sweet.
So Magpie has gone off to do her own thing. You have you kind of missed when she left. You were busy either getting a meal from a girl or going up to the bar yourself. She ducked out somewhere. And the atmosphere of this place is actually pretty lively. And Krona, you definitely think that it's in no small part because of you. I'm not sure you guys think that, but you might.
Can I look around?
Absolutely.
I'm assuming they're not, but I want to see if the elf is here.
Cool.
Well, 8.
8 perception.
You are getting drunk.
That's true.
You look about.
No, I'm kind of hilarious.
Even with an 8, that elf is not hard to spot. He looks pretty distinct from the rest of the group. I'm saying he now because Magpie called him he.
Okay.
And yeah, that really short white hair, that voluminous robe, you don't see that anywhere in this tavern. You get the sense that elf is probably hanging out in his hut alone. Which is, I guess, kind of sad now that I think about it. Poor.
He's got his potions.
His potions.
He's the snake of the town.
Don't say that to him. We don't know that he's that bad
Yeah,
yet.
that's true.
But most of the people in this tavern, they look to be like hard-working country folk. Most of them have pretty good muscles. They have a tan on their skin. And you note as you look at their suntan that the sun never seems to set around here.
So
That
the
red
sun's
sun, that red sun is just constantly hanging in the sky like an overripe fruit.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the bartender. At the temple, do they have any sort of night service?
Well, that's a good question. I heard from the grapevine that your name's is Saranon. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're a cleric of Narigol also.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, night service, not so much. But if you're a member of their order, you should be able to go in and just pal around with them.
Is that what you do there? You pal around?
That's not my experience, but I'm sure someone will at least speak with me.
Sarah doesn't have a proficiency in palling around.
I don't.
Well, yeah, services don't usually. People, if they're going to go to a service of any sort, it's going to be the little catechism they hear when they go to get their food. There's not a real big service-going population here in this town. Sorry to say.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's a little different from back home, huh?
Yes. A little. Thank you. I'm gonna go back over to these numbnuts.
Okay, you've got a little table in
I'm
a
still
corner.
over with the girl.
Okay.
Oh, privacy.
Well, then I'm just gonna go over to Tico.
Alright.
This
Um,
numbnut.
Very drunk.
Okay, if you're very drunk, I see a clock Tico and just like,
Sloshy boy.
oh,
Man!
Sloshy
and
man.
I kind of grab him, either side of the face. I'm going to the temple.
Why? Why?
I'm gonna go talk to them. I told you this earlier.
I know, but it's fun here.
I already had my drink. It didn't do much for me. It takes a lot for me. They're big.
But it's like you can hang out. There's like songs.
And I like turn his head towards Krona. Krona likes to party.
Yeah, but she's got a girl.
And she could also hang out.
I don't think she wants to hang out with us.
Okay, well I turn his head towards all the other people in the tavern. New friends.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do it. I believe in you. And I kind of and drop your face. And
I fall over.
Oh, poor Tico.
Hey, I need someone to come hang out.
It's fine.
No, I need someone to hang out with my friend.
Does he need a babysitter? Or?
No, he needs a friend.
Are you making a persuasion or an intimidation check?
It's a kind of accidentally both.
Choose one.
Which am I better at? I think it's intimidation.
I think it is.
How bad do you want to scare these townspeople?
Scare them into friendship.
18.
Oh.
Intimidation.
You look over and you see who. Okay, what NPC do you see?
What's your ideal
Look at my
NPC?
What's
For
your
Tico.
Ideal friend for Tico.
Let's see. Garth Bolo, is he in town?
Oh yeah, Garth Bolo is here.
I think he's ready to party.
You find the gnome armorer Garth Bolo, and he is dressed in. He's still got his armored shirt on. Nice. He has got these. I say big, but he's a gnome. He's got these little leather booties on. And so this gnome, he has a little triangular gnome hat. Most gnomes have this hat, and his is blue, and it droops behind his head, and he's got this big tangle of black hair that just goes out from underneath it.
Oh, I love him.
And he saunters over. And, he's like 2.5 feet tall. And he says in that deceptively deep voice of his, "How you doing?"
Tico just got a new magic knife. Maybe you two can talk about it.
That's true. You know about knives?
Oh, buddy, I know about knives. Here, let's hand it over.
Okay.
And a Saranon goes. Okay, do you want to figure out this scene with Garth Bolo and the knife?
Okay.
Episode 11.
Garth Bolo and the knife.
That's my new band name.
Yeah.
That's Tico's new name. The knife.
Tico keeps accidentally calling him Darth Solo.
He's like, that's not
That's
my name.
nobody.
Yeah,
That's
that
no one.
doesn't mean anything to me, kid. I mean, man.
Dude.
Tico firmly imprints on him the necessity of calling him man instead of kid.
That is the most important thing right now. I'll pull out daggers. Just daggers,
Is
not
this
regular
one?
daggers.
Which one? Which one?
Like I'm at a TSA.
Yeah, like when you go on an airplane and you have to get rid of all your knives.
Does this not happen to you? And then I finally pull out the fancy knife
Mm-hmm.
and brandish it a little menacingly accidentally.
He's just very drunk.
Garth has a high chair.
I might still be on the ground.
Didn't get up.
Garth's on the ground also.
He's just sitting there. He's
The way
fine.
that you talk to an unfamiliar cat in the street.
Exactly. Or just being a gay and sitting on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's also true.
Yeah.
All right.
He's like, whoa there.
Sorry.
Watch out, man.
It's like the purple.
He's like, okay, turn that thing around.
Oh.
Hilt first, please. And he reaches out his hand.
Wait.
Like, you know knife etiquette,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And he takes the hilt of the knife and he holds it up to the light. And he's like 2 drinks in right now also.
Oh no.
And he looks at it.
The knife of being sexy, lad.
This, my dude, my man.
Thank you.
And he
Hey.
listen, I'm a 2.5 foot tall gnome. If people called me kid all the time, I'd lose my goddamn marbles.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Anyway, this knife, and he goes over to the divot that seems to have this purplish liquid, and he taps his finger in it, and no matter how much he tries to, he says, okay, feel this. Feel the divot, and you slide your finger over it, and you can feel your finger getting wet, like you are dipping into it, but you can't. When your finger comes out, nothing comes with it.
Yeah, it's just like totally dry.
It's like totally dry, and none of the liquid escapes from the divot. And he says, "This knife," and he sheaths it, hands it back to you. Magic knife.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I would say your best option is talk to Zarus. Zarus knows about magic stuff. He could identify it for you.
I was gonna talk to Cyrus.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's like
You have great intuition.
like serendipity.
Yeah.
My man.
Is he like a hippie gnome now?
His personality has drifted a bit when.
I think Tico just brings out the best in him.
I think Garth
Maybe
changes a bit when he's drunk.
Just drunk Garth.
Yeah.
Like this.
And he says this. I can tell you this though. This knife not made locally. It is not farmers market artisanal knife. This was made
Not
somewhere
organic.
else. Yeah.
GMO knives.
Well, but it's also not. It's also not standard military issue. It's too fancy for that.
I got it from Stump.
Yeah. Yeah. This looks like sort of an enchanted forest sort of stump knife.
Just your standard Stump.
It's a sort of thing you'd find probably one of a kind.
Is Zarus like, is he chill? Like, does he like having people come over, or like, what's his deal?
So I've known Zarus most of my life. He has lived here. Yeah, since the day I was born. He's been in this village a long time.
Yeah.
And he's got some baggage, Zarus. I don't know what his deal is, but as long as you're not going to pry, you're not going to try and figure out like what his backstory is, what his trauma is, what his baggage is. As long as it's all business between you and him,
Okay.
I think he'll do just fine.
Cool.
Get the dirt on Zoom.
Yeah. Tico loves the snoop.
Yeah. So, listen, talk to Zarus for more information, but I'm looking at that knife. I'm looking at that weirdness going on in it.
Yeah.
I think that knife is probably enchanted in such a way that it's really good at killing.
Nice.
Like just.
I mean, only if necessary.
Oh, of course. Listen, man, I make weapons and armor for a living. Sometimes you just got to stab a dude.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
I know.
That's
I know it?
Uh-huh.
I know.
I mean, like, I wouldn't stab any of these
I would
people.
also not
He says a little
stab
too loud.
anyone here.
But if you're out walking about, then he drinks.
Oh, God.
Holy.
You just gotta kill a dude. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yes. Bro, it's been so nice talking to you.
Dude, it's great to meet you.
Yeah.
Now you have to
Nothing
check.
in it.
Oh no.
I think you'll die.
It comes right around.
You'll be an episode of CSI in 10 years.
In 10 years?
You don't think that CSI is still going to be on the air in 10 years?
Yeah, they just have a respect for the dead.
Wait, no, Jenna, I just thought I thought what you were saying is that Kiki would chug this, and in 10 years, she would die because of it.
No.
10 years later, the chugging would kill her.
Just like it got grandpappy. Sister Marguerite died of
Because she only drank water, because she was a holy woman.
It was holy water that she was drinking.
I'm not supposed to do that.
Every time she would drink, she would say, "Lord, bless this mess."
And he didn't.
No.
God.
Anyway, we should go to your scene now.
God, I feel a little drunk because of that scene. That's a psychosomatic
That's acting.
response.
That is acting.
Okay. Acting. Okay. Saranon, we're going to cut to you. You walk out of the Thirsty Work Tavern, and you walk one door down, and you find yourself on the steps of this.
Oh, the temple is right next to the bar.
Yeah, it's literally right next door. It's judging by this little map I made,
Yeah.
from door to door, it's about like 5 feet. Or no, it's about like 10 feet from door to door.
You drink, you get maudlin, you go right to the temple.
And you confess your sins.
That's literally how it is in most small towns.
Anyway, so you're there on the steps of the temple, and you can see now, you were distracted earlier, but above the door is what do I call it? It's not a window, but it's like a carving in the wall that goes from the outside into the inside. That is in the shape of the eye of Nergal. You recognize this holy symbol. And yeah, it's just like one of those little metal eye symbols that you have on your person. And I don't know, does the Saranon feel at home, or does this feel like a nervous experience?
I don't think she's ever been to a different temple of Nergal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think any temple she and Zeph ever stopped in was another one of Kiva.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the temples of Nergal tend to be a little bit womp womp. So yeah, I don't think she's ever been to a different temple, and it's kind of weird to her, because like she did grow up in one, and it's like this home adjacent. It's home but backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Home but wrong somehow. Okay.
Upside down home.
Yeah. I mean, that's all of this. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So you open up the door. It's this big oaken double door. It is reinforced with these iron bands along it. You've seen this sort of iron reinforcing a lot while you've been here, actually. The prison had doors not unlike this. It seems like the sort of place... Actually, you open the door, and what you notice is that on the inside, it could be barred from the inside to, like, repel an invasion. If this is... It looks very much like this temple could double as like a bunker.
Interesting.
And you open the door and you step inside, and it is lit dimly and exclusively by candle light that are held in small sconces, and these candles burn with a blue flame. And so the entire inside of this place is not lit by the reddish light of that sun that hangs in the sky eternally, but by I think eerie would be the right word, a kind of eerie bluish glow. And it's longer than it is wide. There's a long sort of procession area. There are a couple of stone pews in there, and it terminates in a stone altar at the far end. And you can see 3 people in this temple. 2 of them are, all 3 are in black robes, but 2 of them have their hoods down. They seem to be acolytes of some sort. They have only a very simple holy symbol around their necks. One is male, one is female. Both human, I believe. Yeah. One of them you recognize was the woman who was standing behind the older man when you entered the village. The other is kind of late teenage years that you haven't seen before. You probably didn't leave. They're just like making sure the candles are lit. They're tending to the structure. And in front of the altar at the far end of this room is a hooded man, totally black robed, but he has a mantle over his shoulders that it looks like It's basically a circular piece of cloth with a head hole that is draped over his shoulders, and it has a constellation pattern on it. It looks like sort of actually it's kind of like a star chart that has been draped over his shoulders.
How'd that look?
It's pretty cool, and he's doing something at the altar. He has his back to you.
Okay. I'm gonna get like halfway up the pews and kind of like wrap my knuckles against one, and in Elvish, there's probably a traditional greeting in Nergalian, in the Nergalian faith. I'm going to say that, but in Elvish.
Cool. You say it in Elvish. Interesting. So you rap on the pew, and all 3 people turn when you do this. Or no, the 2 acolytes turn when you do this. The hooded man keeps his back facing you, and you say that greeting in Elvish, And the two acolytes look at you quizzically. It doesn't seem like they understood, but without moving, you hear the appropriate response come from the man at the far end. And that response is, and the dreamer watches over you too. And as he says that, he turns about and he takes down his hood, and he was that dour-looking man that you saw when you entered the village. He walks towards you and says, "I had a feeling. I could tell from those holy symbols on your person that you were a member of our faith. It's a pleasure to have you, sister."
Thank you, brother. I must admit it is heartening to see Nergal's work here.
Indeed.
I'm a long way from home.
There are indeed few travelers who come to this region, yes. I too, actually, am a long way from home. I have traveled long and far with my acolytes to reach this place.
May I ask where you are from?
May I ask your name first?
Yes, I am Serenon's daughter.
Serenon. Very interesting name. You know, I don't think I've ever met a Serenon before.
Not many have.
An orcish name, perhaps.
Well, yes, I would hope so.
In any case, I have traveled many miles to reach this little village. I was assigned to it by a temple clerk back in Marinval, my hometown, the capital. Yes, the city of the empty tower. It's a bit of a grim place, actually, but I'm sure as a member of our faith you know that we don't mind the places that life abandons.
Yes.
He looks at you quizzically. He's trying to read something about your expression. He says, "You know, I brought one acolyte with me when I came, and I took on another when I reached this town, and I've trained them for many years. But neither of them were originally solely of the Nergalian faith. They were, my first acolyte," and he nods to the woman, was a devotee of Elo. And this boy that I found here in the village, who decided to take this as a vocation, as a job, not as a calling, had never been taught the strictures and the intricacies of any faith. He gave his prayers to the 6 gods when he needed to, and he lived a rather simple life, but he was amenable to learning the complexities. But you, it seems to me that you have not just a knowledge of scripture and of tradition, but you possess that God's given power. That you too are a conduit for Nergal's magic, a way for him as a being of astral body, gone from this world, to enact his will upon this land. Am I mistaken?
No. I have never met anyone who felt the same. I was an oddity in my village. It was considered strange for me to feel so connected to him. It's good to meet someone who understands.
It is good to meet a kindred spirit, Sister Serenon. I should introduce myself. My name is Vrill Reskus. Vrill. Vrill. I came to this village nearly 10 years ago. 10 long years. And yet, even though this tiny town is so vastly different from my city, from Marinval, I've rather grown fond of it. It is simple. It is indeed dangerous. The living here is harder. People are more likely to perish one day. Simply they're gone. Killed by a hobgoblin or trapped when the mine collapses upon them. But in a way, I feel that it has brought me closer to my God. I regret that these things happen, but I feel Nerigol's presence in this village after a fashion.
Do an insight check on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a creepy ass thing to say.
Yeah.
I feel God here in this Chili's tonight.
God, it's been a chilly the whole
17.
time.
17. Yeah, he seems a bit pleased about people dying for no reason.
It is true that Nerigol's presence is most felt in times of strife. It seems appropriate that his presence would be felt here more strongly.
Yes. Though, I've always wished to go on a pilgrimage. I've always wished to see if I could be the one to find the bones of Nerigol. Nerigol came to this world 500 years ago, along with Elo and Kieva. And he perished. I wish I knew why. I wish I knew how. I wish I knew precisely where. Legends have told us that the great city of Velasha, in the middle of the ancient marsh, is where his Onyx Hall, the physical manifestation of where souls dwell in the afterlife, is somewhere deep within that city. But who knows? No one has ever found it.
Yes, it is a mystery that plagues us all.
I'm beating around the bush. I don't think your arrival here was any coincidence, Saranon. I think that you and I could find our God. I think that we could do great things together, if what you say is true.
You have only just met me. It is unusual for people to trust me so easily. It's not exactly welcome.
I understand. And I sympathize with you. As a member of a grim faith, I too have felt ostracized from my peers. In Marinval, the priests of Elo, their sunny disposition. The clerics of Kieva who searched so hard to find a way to make things grow again. Always saw me and those of my faith as a reminder that they could fail. And they resented my acceptance of the state of death. They would fight so hard, so damnably hard, to prevent death and loss and the end of things. But we know, you and I know, that the end is only the beginning.
You speak wisely, brother. However, I have only just arrived, and my companions and I, we do not wish to be separated again, and I believe I will need to speak with them further before any decisions are made.
Perfectly reasonable. Yes.
I would ask you a favor, though. I recently came into the acquisition of a book, and I would like to know more about it, if you may.
Of course.
And I hand over the holy book that I got from Valorith's office.
He takes it. He opens the cover, he pages through it. It seems a fairly straightforward text. What is it you're interested in?
Oh, just,
I can't read, I know. I can't read suddenly.
I wondered if, it perhaps had any, I really can't think of anything to bullshit with this guy.
Make a deception check with disadvantage for me, please.
Just tell him you can't read.
Stuttering.
Yeah. But you see, the thing is,
Disadvantage. Deception. 3.
Did you say 3?
Big ol' 3.
And he says, well, I'll give you the straightforward answer on this. This is the holy text of Lotan Ratu. It was printed in Ruby Irie. And there are some, he looks into the middle of it, there are some deeply disturbing scribbles in here. Someone has been writing their own notes in the margins.
Okay. Yes, I just wanted a second opinion on it. It worried me as well, but I wanted to make sure that my worries were founded.
Yes, your worries. I have worries as well.
I'm worried that you can't read.
My worry is this. There is one thing that unsettles me about this village that we're living in, and that you have come to. It is that it is governed by a woman named Lady Carnelian. She lives in Ruby Irie. Lady Carnelian is a vampire. She's an abomination in the eyes of Nerugal. She has preyed upon the people of this land for far too long. But she is too powerful to subvert. Too powerful for a lowly country cleric such as myself, at any rate. I can tell from your bearing and from your demeanor that you are not from these parts. So I thought it fit to warn you. Warn you that going to Ruby Irie would be a terrible sacrilege.
Okay. I will keep this warning close at hand. I do not think it is within my near future. But, thank you for the warning. I take the book back. And in exchange, I have a little, pocket full of beads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a couple out, and I made these myself. They have the sigil of Nerugal on them.
How very kind of you.
Yes.
And he takes them. It was a pleasure meeting you, Sister Saranon.
Yes, you as well. Blessings of the Dreamer upon you.
And upon you.
And I get the fuck out of
Kat, you wanted to do something.
Yeah. Krana's gonna make her excuses and ditch the girl.
Wow, cold-hearted.
Yeah.
Ain't that the way?
She's gonna be very, very charming about it. You know, bend down, kiss her hand, thank you for the meal, and then just leave the tavern for a second.
Okay.
Actually, she's gonna do this while she's walking over to the armory.
Okay.
She reaches down her shirt, pulls out the symbol of the 6.
Mhm.
The little,
Oh, yes.
yeah. Is the little light still glowing in it?
Yes.
Okay. Stick my finger through again. Nothing.
It feels a little warm, but nothing.
Okay. Hello? Okay, look, I know I tried this before, but Astrid, if you're out there listening, wow, this feels stupid. We are trying our best to find our way back to you. And I'm trying my best. Wherever you are, stay safe. I know before I left, I promised to tell you a little more about our father and our family. And I mean, I might not even be talking to you at all right now. It's probably not very useful to go into detail. I just want to let you know, if you're listening, you know, our father was a good man, and he was a good father. Luke tried his best, and if you ever meet him, I hope you can see that. Okay, this is stupid. Ugh. I'm gonna keep going to the armory.
Yeah, you make it there without incident. Some person in the town says, "Oh, hey, Krona."
Yeah,
Or "Hey, Crunk, glory, fortune, hallelujah."
yeah.
I said crunk glory. Fortune. Exciting.
Yeah, mind if I see our guest in there for a sec?
You just kind of say it into the shop, and then you realize that that Garth Bolo is not here.
He's wasted with Tico.
Oh, yeah.
We're hanging out.
This shop is empty.
Okay, I'm just gonna walk in. Like, it's
Yeah,
not locked or anything.
small town. Doors don't lock here.
Okay, I'm gonna find Valorith.
Yeah, you head into the back, and there is that torch that Saranon left burning by the door. And so that torch is right next to you as you open the door into the back room. And you can see its light casts a long glow across the room. You can just barely see it touching the edge of the cage. Everything within the cage is shrouded in shadow.
Woof, it's dark in here, huh, Valorith? I take the torch off the wall and I approach.
Cool. You take the torch off the wall, you hear Nova Sprance.
As the light gets closer, do I see anyone in there?
You walk closer, the torch flickers in your hand, and you move over towards the cell. And yes, Valorith is hunched over inside the cell.
Jeez Louise.
She has her knees up to her chest. She has got her arms sort of folded on top of them, and her short yellowish hair has fallen over her forehead, and she looks up, sort of glowers at you through between strands of hair, and says, "What?"
Oh, you could have said hi when I came in. Your mother didn't teach you good manners, sweetheart?
She sits up. "What is it you're here for? Come to make fun of me?"
Maybe a little, but that's, you're not special in that. Are you eating it?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
Put some beer on my water skin. Look like you could use it. No? I'll drink the rest of it if you don't want it. It's not poison.
This is not poison.
Insight check. She fails it. And she uncorks it. She has not yet lost all semblance of dignity. She does not just like... She takes a... She does not...
No, there was a lot more side-to-side action in there.
She does not, upend the water skin into her mouth. I'm watching my goddamn hands.
She's sedately sipping.
No, she.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
she.
doing a wine tasting.
Oh my god, I can't make this gesture either. She takes it by the neck of the water skin, and she looks at you, and breaks eye contact. Head back. Looks at you again.
It's kind of shitty beer, though, right? Is it like that everywhere?
And she tosses it back to you.
It clatters against the bars, and I reach through.
Oh. Yeah, it's kind of like that everywhere.
Oh, that's a bummer. There's much better alcohol where I'm from. I digress. Look, we did a lot of sort of talking over your head and around you today, and like about the plans that the villagers have to do with you. What are your thoughts on all this? I'm just curious. Because if you've got a better option to offer up instead of just flat out insisting, let me go, don't put me in jail. Like, that's really effective, right?
Right.
It's not. But if you have thoughts on your indefinite incarceration, maybe tell us.
I betrayed my order of knights, when Lady Carnelian took over the Ruby Ivory.
Did you help her take over, or was it
I
just...
I had grown to hate the people that I served, and I thought that she would bring some semblance of goodness. I feel so stupid saying it. Lady Carnelian is nothing if not selfish and cruel, vain, all of the things that I had grown to hate about my former masters. And now it seems that by being too afraid to rise up against her, because she deals in fear in a way that I have never known before, I have wound myself up in prison. Once again, stripped of power. I have to say, I'm not fond of you. Serenon's not much better.
Oh, but Tico's okay.
I mean,
Yeah, he's a not kid, man. He's a good man.
he seems fine.
Believer.
He hasn't been bothering me the way that you two have. And she permits herself a tiny little smile. Here's the deal. She doesn't say that. She looks at you and considers her next words carefully and says, I don't particularly have any interest in traveling with you, any of you, but I know that we're both in a bad situation. I'm trapped in prison. I've failed my liege. I'm doubtless going to fall from her favor, be stripped of my position, and find myself... Well, I don't want to think about where I'll find myself. But you three are strange. You three were brought to my prison with a request from a devil from Kailumbra to be taken to him. I received word that you were taken from the top of Renault's anvil. That there were shards of black glass all around your bodies when you were taken. It's all too strange for me. There's something interesting about your situation. I don't know why, but I do want to help you. I want to understand why all of this has happened. Why your arrival of my prison has thrown my life into chaos. And don't get me wrong, this is a purely selfish action. I have no love for you, or for any of you three. But I think helping you will help me. I'd like to get out of prison. this cell. I'd like to go somewhere, anywhere that isn't here.
You know what? I actually kind of trust selfishness. Like, that's a much more reassuring thing to hear out of your mouth than I've changed. No, you haven't. And we know that, and we know that. I do think you're maybe a little crazy for seeing something weird that really upset your life and running towards it. But I feel like that's what I've done a lot too. Look, if you want to get out of here, you're gonna have to do something for the people of this town. Like, yeah, you're gonna have to offer them something that'll help them. Straight up, they're not gonna let you go without a fight. And if you can help us, and you're not gonna stab us in the back, and we have some guarantee of that, I don't see why not. You seem like a very capable person.
I know what I can do to help this town. And I know that you can help me.
Okay.
I know where the Iron Shadow is.
Ah.
And that's where we're going to end for today.
Yeehaw!
Good game, everyone!
None of you pointed out my Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff.
I took pictures of it.
Oh,